We would like to welcome you to Webinar 1 of a two-part series on the Wellbeing Policy Statement and Framework for Practice, supporting a whole school wellbeing promotion process. The aim of these webinars is to support the consistency and sharing of key messages of the wellbeing promotion process. Throughout these webinars, we will refer to the Wellbeing Policy Statement and Framework for Practice as the Wellbeing Framework. It might be useful for you to have a copy of the Wellbeing Framework to hand as you venture through this webinar. You can access and download the Wellbeing Framework on the Department of Education's website www.gov.ie. The first webinar will explore the rationale and theory underpinning the Wellbeing Framework. Definitions of wellbeing in existing educational policy will be highlighted. Key messages and aims of the Wellbeing Policy Statement and Framework for Practice will be signposted. We will also have a look at risk and protective factors to wellbeing promotion in schools. Webinar 2 will focus on how this framework can be used to support whole school wellbeing promotion using the 6-step school self-evaluation process. We invite you to pause this presentation to read through the following key messages of the Wellbeing Framework. When you have finished, please press play. Please note that the date for schools to initiate a wellbeing promotion review and development cycle through the school self-evaluation process has been extended from 2023 to 2025 as per Circular 32/21. We would like to take this opportunity to draw your attention to the Employee Assistance Service, Wellbeing Together Fólóna le Chéile, which is available to all school staff and family members. This is a confidential 24-hour service that provides help and support in managing whatever work or personal issues you may be facing. Further information about this free service can be found on the Department of Education's website www.gov.ie. Let's begin with the reflection activity. We invite you to take some time to consider the following statement. From a visitor's perspective, what well-being related words describe the atmosphere or environment of your school? You may wish to make some notes here. When you have finished, press play to continue. The concept of wellbeing first emerged in Irish educational policy with the introduction of ASHTR, the Early Childhood Curriculum Framework, in 2009. The concept of the term wellbeing has expanded through subsequent primary and post-primary policies identified here on this timeline. The next slide explores some of the definitions of wellbeing cited in these policies. Research on the topic of wellbeing has grown in recent decades, and definitions of wellbeing can vary significantly. In a moment, we will invite you to pause this presentation and read through these 5 definitions of wellbeing. When you have finished, press play to continue. As wellbeing is a nuanced term, it is important that schools have a shared understanding and language when it comes to the definition of wellbeing. The definition of wellbeing on page 10 of the Wellbeing Framework is taken from the World Health Organization and reads as follows. Wellbeing is present when a person realises their potential, is resilient in dealing with the normal stresses of their life, takes care of their physical well-being, and has a sense of purpose, connection and belonging to a wider community. It is a fluid way of being and needs nurturing throughout life. You may wish to pause this presentation and reflect on your own concept of well-being. And when you have finished, press play to continue. The Department of Education sets out the following vision and ambition of the Wellbeing Framework on page 5 of the document. Promotion of wellbeing will be at the core of every school and centre for education. All schools and centres for education will provide evidence-informed approaches and support appropriate to need to promote the wellbeing of all their children and young people. Ireland will be recognised as a leader in this area. This framework spans early education through to post-primary education settings, and it firmly places wellbeing at the centre of all teaching and learning. What are schools being asked to do? Schools are being asked to include wellbeing promotion as a focus for their school self-evaluation, or SSE, by 2025. You may already be familiar with using looking at our schools when evaluating and improving practice in your school. The Wellbeing framework will be used when developing wellbeing promotion in your school for SSE. It is important to note that schools are not required to produce a separate wellbeing policy. Wellbeing, when selected as a focus area for SSE, forms part of the school's self-evaluation process and hence part of the school improvement plan. As educators, we endeavour to support the evolving needs of our school community and the wellbeing challenges they face. We would like to invite you to pause this webinar now and reflect on why you think a framework on wellbeing promotion is important for all schools and centres of education in our current educational climate. You might like to record some of your thoughts. When you are finished, please press play to continue with this webinar. The Wellbeing Framework sets out a non-exhaustive list of risk and protective factors for whole school wellbeing promotion on pages 12 and 13 of the document. Schools are recommended to implement a preventative wellbeing promotion process by focusing on strengthening their protective factors and minimising their risk factors. Please turn to pages 12 and 13 now and take a few moments to reflect on the various risk and protective factors that may be applicable to your school context. Please take a moment to look at the infographics that highlight the findings of two 20th century psychologists, Abraham Maslow and Benjamin Bloom. Students have to Maslow before they can bloom. A child needs to feel safe and loved. They need to have a sense of belonging and a sense of esteem and self-compassion before they are in a position to learn, remember, understand, apply and analyse information. Bearing in mind the diversity of pupils in your school and their individual learning needs, we invite you to reflect on how you are currently meeting their Maslow needs before engaging with Bloom's taxonomy. No doubt, many examples will come to mind. So take a few moments to consider what is already happening in your school or centre of education. And when you have finished, press play to continue with this webinar. The National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, NCCA, is reviewing and redeveloping the primary curriculum. The new curriculum aims to provide a strong foundation for every child to thrive and flourish, supporting them in realising their full potential as individuals and as members of communities. Take a moment to read through the 7 key competencies taken from the draft curriculum framework displayed here. Fostering Wellbeing, one of the 7 key competencies, aims to develop children's well-being and their ability to be as physically, socially, emotionally and spiritually healthy as they can be. More information about the draft primary curriculum can be found on the NCCA website www.ncca.ie. Learners need a wide range of skills to help them face the many challenges presented to them in today's world. They develop specific skills in the curriculum provision. There are also a more general set of skills needed to support learners in their personal, social and work lives, and these skills are evident in both the junior and senior cycle curricula. The skills of communication, working with others, being critical and creative thinkers, managing oneself and staying well are key components to enhancing student well-being. Therefore, the junior and senior cycle curricula offer ample opportunities to enhance student wellbeing through pedagogical approaches. The Wellbeing framework is underpinned by Bronfenbrenner's ecological model of human development theory, outlined on page 11 of the document. This model of human development is helpful as it provides a comprehensive systems-based approach to understanding wellbeing. It acknowledges the importance of the individual and his/her relationships and social context. It also demonstrates that to be human is to be relational and that wellbeing is always realised within a community. Thank you for your participation in Webinar 1. We hope you found it useful to explore some elements of wellbeing promotion in schools and centres of education. Webinar 2 will focus on how this framework can be used to support whole school wellbeing promotion using the 6-step school self-evaluation process. Go Nairi Live.